The first time my graduation disappeared, I thought the university portal was broken. The second time, I blamed the registrar. The third time, I stood outside Myri University's commencement hall in a borrowed gown while 2,000 students rehearsed their walk across the stage, and my name vanished from the list 10 minutes before attendance closed. When I refreshed my transcript, Control Systems 2, the course I had passed with an A-, was gone as if I had never taken it. My name is Han Jae-won, senior engineering student, unpaid laboratory slave, and apparently the only man in Korea capable of losing the same 3 credits 3 semesters in a row. I had already accepted a robotics position in Yokohama, sold half my furniture, and promised my mother I would stop asking her for rent money after June. The company expected my final graduation certificate within 11 days. Myri University now claimed I was 1 class short. I marched straight to the administration building with my laptop under one arm and the graduation gown still hanging from my shoulders. The registrar clerk stared at my transcript, frowned, and told me the course code had been withdrawn from my academic history. I asked who withdrew it. She typed for another minute, then said the audit field was empty. That was when Cha So-yeon appeared beside the counter holding 2 iced coffees and looking like she had stepped out of a university advertisement. She was student council vice president, top of the computer engineering department, face of 3 scholarship campaigns, and the person half the campus called the queen when they thought she could not hear them. She placed 1 coffee in front of me and said, "You filed appeal ticket 7714 at 2:13 this morning. They still haven't answered?" I had not told anyone the ticket number. I had submitted it from my apartment after midnight, using a portal page students could access only after signing in twice. I looked at her instead of the coffee. "How do you know the exact number?" So-yeon blinked once and tucked a strand of black hair behind her ear. "Student council gets copied on unresolved graduation appeals." Her voice was soft enough that the clerk leaned forward to catch it. "You sounded angry in the complaint, so I came down to see whether they were fixing it." The explanation almost worked. Then the clerk looked confused and said graduation appeals were not shared with student council at all. So-yeon's smile did not move. She simply asked the clerk whether an emergency manual review could be opened before the foreign employment deadline listed in my case. I forgot the coffee completely. Foreign employment deadline? She looked at me. June 17th. That was the exact date printed in a private email from Hoshino Robotics. Not my public offer letter, not the department announcement, the email sent directly to my personal account. I asked how she knew that too, and for the first time So-yeon hesitated long enough for me to notice. She recovered by saying Professor Bay had mentioned my overseas job. That answer sounded possible, so I let it sit. The registrar opened a manual review and promised an answer within 48 hours. So-yeon walked with me back toward the engineering building and complained about the heat as if she had not just quoted 2 private records from memory. Myri University was the kind of place that advertised innovation with banners while using elevators older than most professors. Glass research towers surrounded a central brick library, and every engineering student learned which doors stuck in winter and which vending machine gave 2 coffees if you kicked the bottom panel. My goal had never been complicated. Graduate, get a stable job, send money home, and stop sleeping under fluorescent laboratory lights. So-yeon had been in my life since first year, though in my life made our relationship sound closer than it was. We shared 2 introductory classes, survived the same disastrous freshman design contest, and occasionally ate together when our schedules overlapped. She remembered my coffee order, my preferred seat in the library, and the fact that I hated presentations. I remembered that she never ate breakfast unless someone put food directly in front of her. During first year, she had not been the campus queen. She was the girl students whispered about because her family name had appeared in a scholarship embezzlement scandal. Her father, Cha Do-kyun, worked in university finance and was accused of stealing money meant for low-income students. He disappeared from public life after the investigation, and So-yeon spent the semester moving through campus like everyone else's eyes weighed something. I once found her sitting behind the robotics lab after midnight with a broken vending machine sandwich in her hand. She had been working 2 tutoring jobs because her family accounts were frozen. I gave her my meal card, told her I did not care what her father had supposedly done, and went back inside to repair a motor driver. At the time, it was a forgettable act of basic decency. So-yeon apparently remembered it differently. By second year, she had perfect grades, student council connections, scholarship committee access, and enough social polish that the same people who had avoided her began inviting her to events. She could solve a scheduling conflict, obtain a missing signature, or make a professor answer an email before lunch. I had always assumed she liked fixing things. My best friend, Lee Mingyu, did not share that interpretation. When I told him So-yeon knew my appeal number and job deadline, he stopped soldering a sensor board and stared at me through his safety glasses. J1. She once told me what dorm laundry machine you use. I laughed because that sounded ridiculous. Mingyu did not. He reminded me that So-yeon knew I changed running routes after construction started near the river, knew which cafeteria dish gave me stomach trouble, and once brought me a replacement phone charger before I realized mine was missing. That is called being observant, I said. That is called knowing the serial number on your charger. He had a point about the charger. I decided the fastest way to stop feeling paranoid was to test the situation instead of inventing explanations. That night, I created a new email draft addressed to a fictional company called Northbridge Automation and wrote that I was considering withdrawing from Hoshino to accept a position in Singapore. I did not send it. I left the draft inside my personal mailbox and closed the laptop. The next morning, So-yeon found me outside the materials lab and asked whether Singapore humidity would bother my asthma. There are moments when suspicion stops being a mood and becomes a task. I asked what she was talking about. She looked directly at me and said, "Nothing. You look tired." I spent the next hour changing every password I owned. Personal email, university account, cloud storage, banking, even the food delivery app. I enabled hardware authentication and logged out every device. Before lunch, my university portal forced another logout and asked me to re-verify my identity because unusual administrative access had been detected. The security page showed no location for that access. It only listed a service account named Miradigital STU04. Mingyu searched the campus network directory and found the account belonged to an old student digital services pilot project supposedly retired 3 years earlier. The project administrator field was blank. We took screenshots before the entry disappeared. 20 minutes later, the service account no longer existed in the directory. Mingyu leaned back in his chair and said, "You know what normal people do when they like someone? They send a message." I told him we did not know So-yeon was behind it. He asked whether I wanted to bet my graduation on that sentence. I did not answer because, at that exact moment, a new email arrived from the registrar stating my control system's 2 credit had been restored. The relief lasted 8 minutes. My degree audit now showed a missing professional ethics seminar, a 1-credit online module I had completed 2 years earlier. The course itself still appeared on my transcript, but the graduation system no longer counted it toward my degree. Someone was not simply deleting records. Someone understood exactly how many changes were necessary to keep me enrolled without creating an obvious academic failure. I went to Professor Bay, my capstone advisor, expecting him to call the whole thing a software problem. He pulled up the faculty version of my record and swore quietly. The faculty screen showed all my credits intact. Only the graduation certification layer was wrong. "That layer is managed centrally," he said. "Departments can view it, not edit it." "Who can?" "Registrar, academic affairs, senior IT administrators, a few compliance accounts." Student council was not on the list. I asked Professor Bay whether he had told So-yeon my Yokohama deadline. He shook his head. He knew I had a job, but not the date, salary, apartment offer, or anything beyond the company name. My stomach tightened when he added that So-yeon had asked him the previous month whether delaying graduation would automatically void an overseas employment recommendation. Professor Bay assumed she was asking for policy reasons. I did not. I spent the afternoon in the registrar's records office with a clerk named Oh Yirim who had helped me during my second missing credit incident. She remembered the old case because it had been strange then too. She pulled archived audit reports from a backup system and found an administrative adjustment attached to my student number. The editor field was not blank in the archive. It contained a 32-character token rather than a name. Yirim copied the token onto paper because she did not trust her own screen anymore. "This is not a user ID," she said. "It looks like an authorization credential. Can you trace it?" "Not from here." Before I left, she lowered her voice and told me something else. My record was not the only one with unexplained changes. Over 5 years, dozens of scholarship students had credits, residency status, or disciplinary flags modified without normal approvals. Most changes benefited students for a semester, then suddenly turned against them. One student lost a scholarship after an attendance violation appeared in a class he had never taken. Another graduated despite failing 2 required modules. A third received financial aid under a student number belonging to someone who had dropped out. That stopped being a problem about my degree. I photographed the token, thanked Yirim, and went downstairs to find So-Yun waiting beneath the administration building awning with an umbrella. She did not ask what I had learned. She looked at the paper in my hand and said, "You should stop involving Clerco." I felt cold despite the summer rain. "Why?" "Because she has 2 children and a mortgage." "So?" "Because people who touch old scholarship records tend to lose more than they expect." I asked whether that was a warning. So-Yun's eyes shifted toward the rain. "It is advice." I stepped closer. "Did you change my credits?" She answered without raising her voice. "I have never changed a grade you earned." That was not what I asked. She opened the umbrella and held it over both of us. "You will catch a cold." I moved out from under it and walked back into the rain. That evening, my mother called to ask whether I had booked the flight to Japan. I told her graduation was delayed by a computer problem and listened to her pretend not to worry. My father's rehabilitation bills had eaten most of my family's savings, and my younger sister had another year of tuition ahead. Hoshino's salary was not a dream job to me. It was an exit ramp. When I hung up, a delivery arrived at my apartment. Inside were cold medicine, a new umbrella, and the exact seaweed soup my mother used to cook when I was sick. There was no note. I carried the unopened bag upstairs and placed it outside So-Yun's apartment on the 9th floor. We did not live in the same building, but she had given me her spare address once for a student council delivery. I rang the bell. She opened the door in a plain gray sweater instead of her usual campus clothes. Her expression brightened when she saw me, then fell when she noticed the bag. "Take it back," I said. "You were soaked." "That does not answer how you knew where I was or what my mother cooks." She looked at the soup container. "You told me in first year." Maybe I had. I genuinely could not remember. Then I saw the shoe rack behind her. Besides several neat pairs of women's shoes sat a pair of men's black sneakers in my size. Still boxed. The same model I wore until the sole split last winter. So-Yun followed my eyes. Those were going to be a gift. I asked why she already knew my size. She looked surprised by the question, as if shoe size were information any reasonable classmate should possess. I left without stepping inside. The next development arrived through my capstone teammate, Seo Na-young. She had invited me to join a robotic startup she planned to launch after graduation, mostly because my job delay made my future uncertain. We discussed it once in the lab and agreed I would think about it. 2 days later, Na-young received an anonymous complaint accusing her of stealing prototype code from our capstone team. The university froze her startup incubator application while it investigated. Attached to the complaint were screenshots from a private repository that only 4 people could access. Na-young assumed someone in our lab had betrayed her. I checked access logs and found the screenshots had been captured using my credentials during a 30-minute window when I was in a mechanical testing room without my laptop. I was furious enough to stop being careful. I found So-Yun outside the student council chamber and put the complaint printout in front of her. "Fix this." She read the first page. "Na-young did not steal anything." "I know. She will be cleared." "How do you know that before the review?" So-Yun placed the pages back on the table. "Because there is no evidence she did anything wrong. The evidence came from my account." "I know." That single sentence hit harder than a confession. I asked if she had used my credentials. She looked past me toward the empty hallway and said, "I made sure the complaint could not survive formal review." "You made it." I made sure it could not survive. I grabbed the edge of the table. Why? Her composure finally cracked. Because she asked you to build a company with her in another city. There it was. Not policy, not protection, not a technical misunderstanding. Jealousy stated with the same calm tone she used when discussing class schedules. I told her Na-young was my teammate, not my girlfriend. So-yeon answered, that does not mean she would remain only that. You do not get to decide. I know. The way she said it was worse than denial. She knew the boundary and had crossed it intentionally. I asked whether she had sabotaged Hoshino too. She did not answer. I asked again. The company has not withdrawn your offer, she said. I pulled out my phone and opened the recruiter's last message. They had suspended my onboarding pending graduation verification. So-yeon glanced at the screen and quietly said, suspended is not withdrawn. I left before I said something that would get me removed from student council by security. Mingyu and I spent that night mapping every event that had kept me at Myri. Missing credits. Delayed graduation clearance. A dorm extension automatically approved after I had requested cancellation. A research assistant contract submitted in my name and then withdrawn before payment. Na-young's false complaint. 3 companies that had asked for interviews during 3rd year but mysteriously stopped replying. Mingyu opened my old email backups. 1 company had sent a rejection claiming I had voluntarily removed myself from consideration. I had never sent that message. We found another, then a 3rd. All 3 withdrawal emails had been sent through the university's alumni career gateway rather than my personal inbox. The gateway allowed verified campus advisors to submit placement updates on behalf of students. So-yeon had served on the Career Services Student Advisory Board since 2nd year. Mingyu took off his glasses and rubbed his face. This is not a crush anymore. I already knew. We needed evidence that could survive more than a confrontation. I contacted Na-young, told her enough of the truth to get her cooperation, and asked her not to confront So-yeon. She was angry but practical. Her startup incubator complaint had originated from an internal campus address that routed through the old library network. That same network segment housed a decommissioned data center beneath the library's west wing. The basement was officially closed because the university moved its servers to a new technology building years ago. Mingyu still knew a maintenance entrance from his part-time networking job. At 11 that night, we entered through a loading corridor using his technician badge and followed cable trays past dusty storage rooms. Most racks were dead. 1 room at the back hummed. A fresh biometric lock had been installed on a door labeled archive cooling. We could see light beneath it. Mingyu wanted to call campus security. I stopped him because the same university we were investigating controlled campus security. We waited behind an old equipment cage. At 12:26, the lock clicked. So-yeon walked out wearing jeans, sneakers, and a black hoodie. No student council badge, no polished smile, no audience. She carried an encrypted laptop and a ring holding 3 physical security tokens. She froze when she saw us. Mingyu whispered, well, at least now I know I am not paranoid. So-yeon's gaze moved from him to me. You should not be here. I walked past her before she could close the door. The room inside looked nothing like abandoned infrastructure. 6 active servers ran behind soundproof panels, connected to storage arrays and an old campus authentication node. A wall monitor displayed scholarship databases, student account logs, degree audits, and alumni placement systems. 1 panel had my name on it. HANJE1 appeared at the center of a private dashboard surrounded by categories. Degree clearance, housing, employment, course enrollment, access history, known associates. Known associates. Mingyu's name appeared first. Na-young's name sat below his. Professor Bae, my sister, my mother, 2 recruiters, an old girlfriend from 2nd year, 3 classmates, and a convenience store owner near my apartment were listed beneath them. Each entry carried notes. Mingyu. Reliable, unlikely romantic risk, encourages overseas departure. Na-young. High separation risk, professional bond becoming personal. Hoshino robotics. Unacceptable distance. My sister, protected. My mother, protected. I stopped reading when I reached my own status line. Retention objective. Remain enrolled through exposure cycle. Emotional objective. Voluntary proximity preferred. Contingency. Administrative dependency if voluntary proximity fails. The words were clinical enough to make my skin crawl. So-yun stood in the doorway behind us. I can explain. Mingyu pointed at the screen. Please explain administrative dependency. I want to hear the romantic version. She ignored him and looked only at me. Before she could speak, another dashboard flashed red. A scholarship account labeled Myri Foundation Reserve showed dozens of student numbers connected to payments that had never reached actual students. The money moved through research grants, housing reimbursements, and fake overseas exchange accounts. I recognized one name from Yirim's old records. This was the scholarship fraud ring. So-yun closed the door. Now you understand why I could not let you leave yet. I turned toward her. No. I understand why you needed access. I do not understand why my job offers are labeled unacceptable. Her fingers tightened around the laptop. Both things are true. She had spent 4 years collecting evidence against Dean Kwon Myung-ho, Finance Director Nam Sung-cheol, and 2 members of the University Foundation. Her father had discovered the scheme when So-yun was in high school. Instead of acting on his report, the university altered transaction logs and blamed him for the missing funds. Cha Duk-hyun lost his job, his pension, and nearly his freedom. The family sold their apartment to pay legal fees. His name remained attached to the scandal because the university's internal investigation became the official public version. So-yun entered Myri University deliberately. She chose computer engineering because she wanted access to the systems that destroyed him. The old server room had been part of the original fraud network. Years earlier, administrators used the legacy node to create ghost student accounts and modify financial records without leaving traces in the main system. When the infrastructure was decommissioned, the criminal records stayed behind. So-yun found it during second year. She did not report it because the people she would have reported it to were the people inside the records. Instead, she learned how the hidden system worked. Then she used it. At first, she restored scholarship credits to students who had been cheated. She quietly corrected housing charges and removed false disciplinary flags. She collected backups in multiple locations. Later, she realized the same access could control far more than scholarships. That was where I entered the story. You were leaving after third year, she said. I remembered applying for a summer internship in Busan. The company withdrew my placement after an unexplained paperwork problem. I only needed more time. You canceled it. I delayed it. You made the choice for me. You would have gone. That was the point of applying. Her eyes lowered. I know. Mingyu stood near the servers with his arms crossed. Visibly trying not to become part of a conversation he would later need therapy to forget. I asked So-yun how many opportunities she had blocked. She answered with a number. 7. 2 internships. 3 company applications. 1 exchange semester. Hoshino's current onboarding. The missing graduation credits were number 8. I almost laughed because anger had nowhere else to go. You counted them? I remember everything that could have taken you away. That sentence explained her more clearly than the entire dashboard. I asked whether she had harmed anyone physically. Her answer came instantly. No. Na-young's complaint? Designed to fail. Mingyu's scholarship warning from last year? Not hers. My old girlfriend's sudden dorm transfer? So-yun looked away. I waited. She requested a single room in another building. She requested it after someone sent her screenshots suggesting I was cheating. So-yun said nothing. That answer was enough. Mingyu swore under his breath. I told So-yun we were copying the scholarship evidence and taking it outside the university. Her expression hardened immediately. She said the dataset was incomplete and releasing it now would let Dean Kwon blame a few employees, destroy the rest, and survive. I asked what she still needed. The master disbursement key. Finance Director Nam kept an offline signing token inside the administration vault. It could connect the hidden payments directly to the foundation board and prove the money was deliberately routed. not accidentally mismanaged. So-Yun had been waiting for commencement week because the board would gather on campus and the token would be used to authorize next year's scholarship pool. "And my graduation?" I asked. She met my eyes. "Keeping you enrolled gave me a reason to keep accessing degree systems without raising suspicion." "That is not the real reason." Her voice became quieter. "No." The servers hummed between us. "You wanted me here." "Yes." "You would have kept changing credits even after the investigation ended?" She took too long to answer. Mingyu whispered, "That is a yes." So-Yun finally said, "I had not decided how long." I told her the decision was already made. If she touched my transcript again, I would expose the server room, the dashboard, the fake complaints, all of it, even if doing so damaged the scholarship case. Her face lost color. "You would destroy the evidence?" "I would destroy your control over me." For the first time since I had known her, Cha So-Yun looked genuinely afraid of me. Not because I could hurt her, because I could leave. She unlocked a storage cabinet and handed me a portable drive. It contained copies of the scholarship ledgers, transaction maps, and internal emails she had recovered. "Take this, then." I accepted it. She held on for 1 extra second before releasing the drive. When we left the basement, Mingyu asked why she had given up evidence so easily. I told him she had not. The drive was valuable, but not enough to finish the case. So-Yun had given me exactly enough truth to keep me involved. I hated that the tactic worked. The next morning, Clerk Yirim did not come to work. Her desk was cleared by noon. Human Resources told me she had taken personal leave. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I called So-Yun. She answered before the first ring finished. "Where is Yirim?" "I do not know." This time her confusion sounded real. "Did you threaten her?" "No." "Did you move her?" "No." "Can you find her?" A pause. "Yes." That answer was the reason I did not hang up. Within 40 minutes, So-Yun traced Yirim's staff card to the underground parking garage beneath the foundation building. Her card had entered at 6:12 that morning and never exited. Mingyu, So-Yun, and I reached the garage together. Yirim's car sat near a service elevator with the driver door unlocked and her handbag on the seat. There was no sign of her. So-Yun checked the staff access system from her phone. The elevator had been used with a foundation override at 6:14. The override belonged to Finance Director Nam. We followed the service stairwell to a document storage floor normally closed to students. A maintenance door had been propped with a box. Inside, we heard someone crying. Yirim was locked in a records cage with her wrists tied using plastic document straps. She had a bruise along her temple but was conscious. Mingyu cut the restraints while I called police from my personal phone. So-Yun did not help. She stood in the doorway, completely still, staring at the bruise on Yirim's face. I had seen her angry before. This was different. Her phone screen lit with admin panels as her fingers began moving. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Closing every exit Finance Director Nam has." I took the phone out of her hand. She looked at me as if I had slapped her. "You do not get to make people disappear because they hurt someone helping me." "He kidnapped her. Then police arrest him. He will destroy evidence before they reach him. Then preserve the evidence." Her jaw tightened. "You still believe rules protect people?" "No. I believe you do not become him just because he deserves consequences." Yirim was watching us from the floor. So-Yun slowly opened her hand. I gave the phone back. She copied the finance server logs instead of locking Nam inside the building. That choice lasted less than an hour. Director Nam fled campus before police arrived. Dean Kwan issued a statement claiming Yirim had suffered an unrelated personal incident and denied university involvement. Campus security removed the records cage before investigators could inspect the room properly. Someone leaked a photograph of me entering the foundation building with So-Yun. By evening, anonymous campus accounts were calling me her boyfriend and accusing us of breaking into administrative offices together. I knew exactly who had created the rumor. So-Yun admitted it when I confronted her. "It gives you a reason to be near me," she said. "They will assume you followed me because of a relationship, Not because you found the servers. You made the whole campus think we are dating. Yes. My recruiter follows the university news feed. I know. I stared at her. She added, that part is unfortunate. I had to walk away for 30 seconds before speaking again. The rumor worked. Dean Kwan publicly dismissed our presence in restricted areas as a student conduct issue, rather than a security breach. He thought he had contained the scandal. Hoshino Robotics did not find it charming. Their recruiter emailed asking whether I was involved in unauthorized access to university systems. My start date was placed under review again. Soyun read my expression before I showed her the message. I can fix that. You are the reason it needs fixing. I am also the reason Dean Kwan has not accused you of data theft. I pointed toward the administration building. You keep setting fires and expecting credit for knowing where the extinguisher is. She actually flinched. Good. That afternoon, Professor Bay contacted me from a private number and told me to meet him off campus. We found him in a noodle shop 3 subway stops away with a folder under his jacket. He had spent the morning searching old engineering scholarship records. My student number appeared in the fraud database because I had been used as a control account during first year. Money was assigned to my scholarship profile, withdrawn under a duplicate payment ID, then replaced from another fund so I never noticed. The amount stolen under my name was 8,400,001. I had unknowingly been evidence since I arrived at Myri. Professor Bay also found something worse. Soyun's father had not discovered the fraud alone. A junior accounting clerk named Han Songmin had helped him. My uncle. I had not seen Uncle Songmin in years. My family said he moved abroad after losing money in a business dispute. Professor Bay's documents showed he had worked at Myri Foundation until the same month Cha Dukyun was accused. Then his employment record vanished. I called my mother. She went silent when I said the university's name. After several minutes, she told me the family had hidden the truth because Uncle Songmin begged them to. He had testified privately that Cha Dukyun was innocent, then withdrew his statement after someone threatened my father's hospital treatment. My uncle did not move abroad. He changed his name and left Seoul. The scholarship fraud had already reached my family before I ever enrolled. Soyun knew. I found her in the old auditorium balcony after sunset. She sometimes went there when student council events became unbearable. You knew about my uncle. She did not pretend otherwise. Since second year. Why did you never tell me? Because you would have joined the investigation. I am in the investigation now. Exactly. I could hear the logic in her voice. She genuinely believed withholding the truth had protected me. You decided what I was allowed to know. Yes. You decided where I could work. Yes. You decided when I could graduate. Her eyes tightened, but she answered. Yes. The honesty somehow made it harder to stay angry in a simple way. She was not lying because she did not think her reasons required disguise anymore. I sat 2 seats away from her. Why me? Soyun looked toward the empty stage. Because everyone left when my father was accused. Friends, teachers, relatives. People who had eaten in our home stopped answering calls. My mother started apologizing when she entered shops because she thought people recognized us. She rubbed her thumb over the edge of her student council badge. You gave me a meal card and asked whether I wanted kimchi stew. That cannot be enough. It was not the meal. Then what? You looked at me after you knew my name. I remembered that night behind the robotics lab and wished I remembered it better. Soyun continued. You argued with a teaching assistant who called me the embezzler's daughter. You let me use your project bench when my team removed me. You never asked me to explain my father before deciding whether I was worth speaking to. Those moments had been small to me. To someone being abandoned from every direction, they had become structural supports. When your Busan internship came, she said, I thought I would lose the only person on campus who had not treated me like evidence. So you canceled it. Yes. That made you exactly the person deciding my life based on what you needed. Her face tightened. I know. I did not comfort her. The next move belonged to Dean Kwan. At 9 the following morning, Campus security entered the robotics lab with a warrant to seize my university laptop. The university accused me of unauthorized access, data theft, and manipulation of academic records. My missing credits had become evidence against me. According to their report, my account had edited my own transcript 8 times. The authorization token Yirim found was now linked to my student ID. The setup was clean enough to frighten me. Mingyu wanted to smash the laptop before they took it. I told him that was how engineering students become criminal defendants. So-Yun arrived during the seizure and handed security a student council objection. They ignored her. Then Dean Kwan himself appeared. He was a neat man in his late 50s with silver-rimmed glasses and the relaxed expression of someone accustomed to standing above consequences. He told me the university wanted to resolve the matter quietly. "If you withdraw voluntarily," he said, "we may avoid referring the case to prosecutors." I laughed because the alternative was punching him. "You erased my credits and now want me to admit I did it?" Dean Kwan adjusted his cuff. "You should be careful making accusations you cannot prove." Behind him, So-Yun looked almost peaceful. That worried me more than the threat. She stepped beside me and said, "Dean Kwan, the foundation disbursement key was used at 8:42 this morning." His expression changed by less than a centimeter. She continued, "Would you like to know which transactions I copied?" He left without answering. I turned on her immediately. "What did you do?" Created urgency. She had not obtained the master key. She had generated a false authentication ping designed to make the fraud ring believe someone had used it. Now Dean Kwan and Director Nam would move the token. "If they move it, we can follow it," she said. "Or they destroy it." "They cannot. The board requires it tomorrow." This was the part of So-Yun that made her dangerous even without obsession. Once she understood a system, she could turn its rules into traps. We needed to know where the token went. Campus security had confiscated my laptop, but Mingyu still had hardware tools. Nayoung had access to the engineering building's sensor network. Yirim, now under police protection, had memorized several Foundation staff IDs. For the first time, our group actually resembled a conspiracy. I hated how much fun Mingyu was having. We placed passive Bluetooth scanners near the administration entrances because the master token used a short-range handshake with secured terminals. If it passed near one of our sensors, we would see the device signature. So-Yun already knew the signature. Of course she did. At 5:17 p.m. the token passed through the humanities parking garage instead of the Foundation building. The device moved toward the old faculty residence complex at the edge of campus. We followed at a distance. Director Nam entered Building C carrying a laptop case. Dean Kwan arrived 12 minutes later. So-Yun wanted to go inside. I stopped her. "We called Detective Han. The police do not understand the data. Then we explain it. They will need a warrant. Then we give them enough for one." She looked toward the building with visible frustration. I said, "You cannot keep solving every delay by breaking the next rule." Her eyes moved to me. "That includes my graduation." She looked away first. Detective Han Soo-jin had taken Yirim's kidnapping report and was already suspicious of the university's cooperation. We gave her the copied transaction maps, the old token ID, and live scanner data showing the master key inside Building C. She called a prosecutor. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then smoke came from a third-floor window. Dean Kwan had chosen destruction. Mingyu shouted that the server signature disappeared. So-Yun ran toward the building before anyone could stop her. I followed because apparently self-preservation becomes optional when your Yandere classmate charges into a fire carrying 4 years of rage. The faculty residence alarm was already sounding. Director Nam stumbled out the front entrance coughing. Dean Kwan did not appear. So-Yun entered through a side stairwell. I caught her on the 2nd floor. "Where is he?" "3rd floor archive apartment." "You are not fireproof." "He has the key." "You are not a fireproof scholarship auditor either." She tried to move past me. I grabbed her wrist. For 1 second, something old and ugly flashed across her face. Not anger at being touched, but panic at being prevented from controlling the outcome. If the key burns, she said, my father stays guilty. We have copies. Not enough. We have Yirim. Not enough. We have my uncle. Her head snapped toward me. I had called Uncle Songmin that afternoon. He had agreed to testify. So-yun stopped pulling away. That hesitation kept us alive. A section of ceiling collapsed in the hallway ahead. Firefighters entered from the stairwell behind us and forced everyone out. Dean Kwan was arrested 30 minutes later after trying to leave through a rear maintenance path with the master token taped inside a document envelope. The physical key survived. So did he. So-yun watched police place him in a car and looked disappointed by the second fact. I told her not to say it. I did not say anything. You did not need to. For the first time that week, she almost smiled. The investigation exploded across campus. Journalists arrived before sunrise. Scholarship recipients compared records. Alumni posted old complaints. The University Foundation suspended Dean Kwan and Director Nam while prosecutors seized financial systems. My academic misconduct case was frozen. Na-young's complaint disappeared. Yirim returned home under protection. Professor Bay sent me a message containing only 3 words. Keep every copy. I thought the worst part was over. So-yun knew better. The hidden server room had one final function. It contained the only complete map linking altered student records to stolen scholarship money. University IT announced that the old library network would be retired for security reasons at midnight. Retired meant wiped. We had 6 hours. Detective Han could preserve the servers, but the warrant covered Foundation financial data, not the entire academic archive. University lawyers argued that student privacy prevented seizure. So-yun had already decided what to do. She wanted to copy the entire database and publish it publicly. I told her that would expose thousands of students' grades, addresses, financial aid status, and disciplinary records. We can redact it later. No. If the university wipes it, the evidence is gone. Then extract only the fraud links. There is not enough time. She opened her laptop and showed me a script designed to dump the whole archive. At the bottom was another command. Restore_attention_target. My student number sat beside it. I stared at the screen. What is that? So-yun said nothing. The command would restore the hidden dependency flags tied to my account if the university system reset. Housing, degree audit, career gateway, library access, employment certification. She had built herself a way to keep control even after the scandal. You were planning to run this tonight. Her fingers curled around the edge of the laptop. Only if everything collapsed. Everything is collapsing. Yes. So you were going to make sure I still could not leave. Her eyes filled, but she did not look away. I was afraid. I closed the laptop. She immediately grabbed my wrist. J1. No. If they erase everything, I lose the proof. You have proof. Not all of it. You do not need all of it to keep me here. Her grip loosened. That sentence landed exactly where I meant it to. The investigation had become her best justification yet. As long as one record remained missing, one witness remained uncertain, one official had not confessed, she could tell herself I needed to stay. She had turned justice into another semester. I took the laptop. She did not fight me for it. I told Mingyu, Na-young, Professor Bay, Yirim, and Detective Han to meet us in the old server room before midnight. So-yun walked beside me without speaking. The basement felt different with 6 people inside it. Less like her private kingdom and more like what it had always been. A room full of machines owned by an institution that trusted secrecy too much. Mingyu connected storage drives. Na-young wrote a filter to extract affected scholarship IDs without copying unrelated student records. Yirim identified financial fields. Professor Bay matched course alterations. Detective Han documented everything on official evidence video. So-yun stood near the main console. She could have completed in 10 minutes what took the rest of us almost an hour. I did not ask for her help. Eventually, she stepped forward and said, "The ghost accounts use a different delimiter. Your script is skipping them." Na-young looked at me. I nodded. So-yun sat down. For the next 40 minutes, she worked without touching my account. At 11:52, we had a clean evidence package. At 11:55, the university initiated the remote wipe. Mingyu disconnected the external drives. The servers began shutting down rack by rack. One terminal remained active. My private dashboard appeared automatically. Retention objective. Known associates. Employment. Graduation. Every road Soyun had closed was displayed in one place. At the bottom was a single option. Export control profile. She could keep it. If she saved the profile, she would preserve the tools needed to rebuild her control somewhere else. If she deleted it, the last organized map of my life disappeared. I did not touch the keyboard. Neither did anyone else. This choice belonged to her. Soyun stared at the screen. Dean Kwan had created a system that turned students into numbers. She had entered that system to expose him, then used the same machinery to turn me into something she could retain. Her hand hovered over the keys. I said, "If you save it, I leave tonight." She looked at me. "I will still testify," I said. "I will still help clear your father. I will still tell the truth about what happened. But you will never decide where I go again." Her voice shook. "And if I delete it, I graduate." That is not what I asked. I knew. She wanted to know whether deleting it would make me stay. I would not give her that bargain. "If you delete it, I get to decide." Tears finally slipped down her face. Soyun pressed delete profile. The system asked for confirmation. She entered her administrator token. My name disappeared from the screen. At midnight, the server went black. No dramatic alarm followed. No hidden door opened. 6 years of manipulated records simply stopped humming beneath the library. Soyun sat in front of the dead monitor and looked smaller than I had ever seen her. I took my old mechanical pencil from my pocket and placed it on the desk beside her. She stared at it. It was the same cheap blue pencil I had lent her during our freshman design contest after hers snapped. She had returned it 3 years later, polished clean, after I joked that she had probably forgotten it. "I did not forget," she said. "I know." She touched the pencil but did not pick it up. The next morning, prosecutors raided 2 foundation offices and 3 private companies linked to the scholarship accounts. Dean Kwan and Director Nam were formally arrested on fraud, evidence tampering, and kidnapping-related charges. Cha Dukyun's name was removed from the university's internal misconduct registry within a week. Public exoneration took longer. Soyun's role became complicated. She had exposed the fraud, preserved victims' records, and prevented millions more from disappearing. She had also accessed private accounts, manipulated academic records, impersonated career advisors, filed false complaints, and interfered with student communications. The university tried to describe her as a lone hacker. That strategy failed when hundreds of students produced evidence that her changes had corrected abuses the university ignored. It did not erase what she did to me. I made sure of that. During the disciplinary hearing, I testified about every missing credit and blocked opportunity. Soyun sat across the room and never interrupted. I described Busan, the exchange semester, the old girlfriend, Na-young, Hoshino, the private dashboard. When one committee member asked whether I believed Soyun had intended to harm me, I answered carefully. She intended to keep me. That was worse in its own way. Soyun received a 1-year suspension from student leadership, permanent removal from administrative systems, mandatory counseling, and supervised completion of her degree. Criminal prosecutors declined several charges after she cooperated fully and turned over evidence against the foundation. Na-young's record was cleared. Mingyu became unbearable for a week because he had technically helped expose the largest university fraud case in Myri's history. Yirim transferred to a government education audit office. Professor Bay pretended not to be proud of all of us. My graduation credits were restored. All of them. I opened the portal every morning for 4 days because I did not trust the number to remain. 132 credits. No missing seminar. No hold. No retention flag. Hoshino Robotics reinstated my offer after Detective Han provided confirmation that I had cooperated with the investigation. My flight to Japan was rescheduled for August. I should have felt only relief. Instead, I kept noticing the empty spaces where So-Yun's interference used to be. No coffee waiting outside lab. No message reminding me about a deadline. No mysterious solution appearing before I asked for help. I hated that absence felt strange. That was not a reason to fill it. So-Yun avoided me completely after the hearing. She attended classes online, stopped appearing at council events, and moved out of the apartment near campus. Mingyu told me she had returned to her mother's home. I did not ask how he knew. He said, "Normal friendship. People tell me things voluntarily." I threw a roll of tape at him. Commencement was held again in late August for students whose degrees had been delayed by the investigation. This time I checked the list once. My name stayed there. I wore the same borrowed gown because buying one for a 15-second walk seemed financially irresponsible. My mother and sister sat in the audience. My father watched by video call from rehabilitation. Professor Bay stood near the faculty line pretending he was not recording everything on his phone. When my name was called, I crossed the stage. Nothing vanished. Nobody stopped me. I received the certificate. At the stairs on the opposite side, I saw So-Yun. She was standing at the back of the hall in a plain white blouse, without a council badge or graduation gown. She did not wave. She did not come closer. For once, she waited to see what I would do. I walked toward her. Her hands tightened around the strap of her bag. "You came. My father wanted to see you graduate. How is he?" He cried when the university cleared his name. I nodded. We stood there while families took photographs around us. So-Yun reached into her bag and held out the blue mechanical pencil. "You left this." I gave it back. Her eyes widened slightly. "Keep it," I said. "It has survived more semesters than either of us." She gave a small laugh. I had almost forgotten what her laugh sounded like when it was not hiding something. She told me she had accepted admission to a supervised graduate cybersecurity program. In Seoul. Taejun. That surprised me. Taejun was nowhere near Yokohama. She watched my reaction carefully. "I applied before checking where you were going." I believed her, mostly because she looked terrified that I might not. "That is progress." "I also deleted your flight number." I raised an eyebrow. "From my notes," she clarified quickly. "I still remember it." Of course she did. I told her remembering was not the problem. Using what she remembered to close doors was. She nodded. Then she asked the question she had avoided for years. "After you leave, may I contact you?" It was almost painfully ordinary. No administrative hold. No fake complaint. No manipulated opportunity. A question with an answer she could not control. "Yes," I said. "But if you ever log into one of my accounts again, I am changing my name and moving somewhere without internet." She smiled. "There is nowhere without internet." That response is exactly why I added the warning. 3 months after I moved to Yokohama, So-Yun sent me a photograph. It showed her student portal. Every graduation requirement was complete except one final capstone defense scheduled for spring. No mysterious missing credits. No self-imposed delays. Below the image she wrote, "I am graduating this time." I replied, "Good." Then I added, "Do not touch mine." She sent back a single thumbs up. For Cha So-Yun, that counted as restraint. The scholarship case continued through winter. Prosecutors recovered more than 2 billion won in diverted funds and identified dozens of students whose records had been manipulated to hide the transfers. My uncle testified publicly. Cha Duk-hyun received a formal apology and financial settlement. Myri University replaced most of its foundation board and built a new audit system requiring independent approval for academic changes. Mingyu complained that we had accidentally improved university governance without receiving course credit. I told him to file an appeal. He told me he would rather graduate. So-Yun completed counseling through the university and later continued privately. She never sent me reports about it. That mattered. We spoke once or twice a week. Sometimes she asked about work. Sometimes I asked about her classes. Sometimes neither of us had anything meaningful to say, and the conversation ended without a crisis being manufactured to keep it alive. That mattered too. When spring came, I returned to Korea for her graduation. I did not tell her until the morning of the ceremony. It was petty. I wanted to know whether she could handle a surprise involving my location. She called me from outside the auditorium. "Where are you?" "Campus." There was a long silence. "You are here?" "Yes." "Why did you not tell me?" "Character development exercise." She hung up on me. 5 minutes later, she found me near the engineering fountain and hit my shoulder with her graduation cap. I considered that a healthy response. Her name stayed on the list. She crossed the stage. No server changed the result. No hidden account extended another semester. When she came down the stairs, she looked toward the crowd before walking anywhere. I raised one hand. She came to me because she saw me there, not because a dashboard told her where I would be. After the ceremony, we walked past the old library. The west basement had been sealed permanently. A new plaque in the lobby listed students and staff who helped uncover the scholarship fraud. So-Yun's name was included. Mine was too. She stopped in front of the plaque and said, "I still hate that you left." "I know. I still check flight prices sometimes." "That is legal. I have considered applying to companies in Japan. That can become suspicious depending on the company." She looked at me. "What if I actually want the job? Then apply. What if it is near you? Then tell me before accepting." She smiled. A year earlier, she would have treated proximity as a result to manufacture. Now she was asking for rules. We started dating 2 months later. Not because the scholarship scandal made us destined. Not because her obsession proved devotion. Not because I forgot what she had done. We started because she spent a year proving she could hear no and remain in the room without rewriting the answer. Our first official date was at the same cheap restaurant where I had once bought her kimchi stew during first year. She arrived 10 minutes early. I arrived 5 minutes late on purpose. Her left eye twitched when I walked in. She did not text, track, call, or send anyone to find me. I sat down across from her. "Were you worried?" "Yes." "What did you do?" "Waited." I nodded. "Good." She kicked me under the table. That was also good. The blue mechanical pencil still lives in her desk. She sends me pictures of it whenever she is tempted to interfere with something I should decide myself. It has become our least romantic warning system. 1 photograph means she is annoyed. 2 means she has already designed a solution and knows she should not execute it. 3 means I should probably call before she starts reorganizing society. She has never sent 4. I prefer not to learn what 4 means. People at Myri still tell the story incorrectly. They say the student council queen exposed a scholarship ring with help from an engineering student she loved. Technically, that happened. They leave out the part where she also erased my graduation credits, blocked 7 opportunities, redirected my career, manipulated a classmate's complaint, and built a private dashboard design to keep me enrolled beside her. I do not leave those parts out. Neither does So-Yun. When younger students ask her why the university now requires dual approval for transcript changes, she tells them systems become dangerous when one person can decide what another person is allowed to lose. Then she usually looks at me. I tell her not to make the lecture weird. She says I am the one attending her cybersecurity talks from the front row. Fair point. The final piece of the old hidden server sits inside a clear evidence box in the Education Ministry archive. It is a small black authentication token with no screen and no obvious importance. That object once let powerful people steal scholarships, erase complaints, rewrite academic histories, and ruin a family. So-Yun used the same system to fight them. Then she used it to keep me. The technology was never the part that scared me most. The dangerous part was how easily a reason that began as protection became permission. So-Yun understands that now. Mostly. Last month, I received an email from a company in Singapore offering me a senior automation position. I forwarded it to her before answering. She called within 30 seconds. That is very far. Yes. Are you considering it? Yes. Silence. I waited. She took a breath. What do you want to do? That question took her 4 years, 8 altered graduation records, one criminal investigation, several thousand hours of counseling and self-control, and an embarrassing number of arguments to learn. I told her I had not decided. She said, "Tell me when you do." No recruiter mysteriously withdrew the offer. My email remained untouched. My passport stayed exactly where I left it. 3 weeks later, I declined the Singapore job and accepted a position in Seoul for reasons that had nothing to do with being trapped. When I told So-Yun, she stared at me for several seconds. Then she asked, very carefully, "You chose that?" "Yes." She covered her face with both hands. I laughed. She told me not to make fun of her. I asked whether she had already researched apartments near my new office. Her hands stayed over her face. "So-Yun." I only looked. "How many?" 32. I sighed. She lowered her hands. "I did not contact any landlords. That was the difference. She could want. She could plan. She could worry that every road might take me somewhere she could not follow. She simply could not close the road anymore. On the day I moved back to Seoul, she waited outside the station with 2 coffees. I took one. Then I checked the label. No sugar. Exactly how I liked it. Some things had not changed. This time, that was fine.